If I could describe Providence House in one word, it would be a blessing. Because just knowing that you got somebody who cares, someone who you trust, someone listen, that's very understanding. It's just such a powerful thing for me to have had a place like that.
The mission statement on our website is Providence House protects children and supports families through crisis to strengthen communities and end child abuse and neglect. For me, the mission is really about being available for families in the community who have children and feel they have nowhere to go. The fact that 70% of our families knock on our door first tells me that this community, the families who need us and the donors who support us know that this is a place that keeps kids safe and families together.
It's named Providence because God's providence began it and has sustained it since the very beginning.
Because I was a teacher for 27 years, wherever I went, I was very aware of children. I became aware of a little boy with his mother in the store, and he was crying and crying, and she was so upset. And I thought to myself, maybe there could be a home where moms and couldn't leave the children alone at home could bring the children to this home. And so that's how Providence House was originated.
It was a very difficult and long decision to open a home for children. Why was I thinking of something else when I was enjoying so much what I was doing? We came to the conclusion that this is what I was called to do.
What she wanted to do in this little tiny house was to have a place for children to be safe.
My favorite memory was when she called and said, "Now Jane, this is really just what we should do. You tell me what to do." And you know, the thing about her is she had so much confidence in me. And I'm like, am I gonna be able to do this? She's like, well, of course. You know, just put it together, I'll do it, we'll do it, it'll be done, that's how it is.
One of my favorite things is when I go visit her in her apartment. She has 2 photos of children. One is the little girl that she met that really prompted her to open Providence House, and the other is the first little boy who ever lived here. Providence House, when I think back to where it was 20 years ago when I came in, is unrecognizable other than our buildings, which have also changed and grown and expanded. But it was just the 2 tiny houses on West 32nd Street. And I think the biggest shift was we were only caring for children. That's all we did, which was wonderful. It was wonderful loving care, all the same wonderful things we do for children today. But I started to ask, well, how do we know the parents really got the help they needed before we're reuniting the children? Are we doing enough intervention to make sure the children are safe after they leave us? And so, you know, here we are now 20 years later being recognized as a program that not only keep kids safe, but we keep families together by doing intervention and parent support and case management and referral. And nationally, that really elevates us and creates quite a distinction for Providence House in the national arena, because most nurseries just watch the children. And that integration of parent support so they can be successful after we resolve the crisis and remain together is really the differentiator.
Providence House has increased all their services to the point where they're really kind of an overall family organization, as opposed to really known for treating children in need. This has changed to where the parents are so involved and provided with all sorts of services and guidance to get them to that next spot, which then allows them to really take care of their children in a way that they want to.
Serving 300 children from 150 families is a lot of work, and we do that with 6 licensed social workers. We have a nursery operations manager, and for sure we're the ones focused directly on the work with the kids and the families, but it takes so much more than just us. We have a child care staff that is committed every day to showing up and nurturing the birth to 12-year-olds that stay with us, and then everybody from the top to the bottom showing up at Providence House with a compassionate heart is what makes this agency go. For us, the reason we serve families is to support them through crisis. And crisis is really anything that impacts the stability or safety of any member of the family. So that can look like providing services to a family who's experiencing domestic violence, if there's a mental health crisis, if there is a parent who's working but doesn't yet have daycare, if they're homeless or at risk of eviction. Those are the reasons we want to wrap our arms around families and support them. We want to make sure that they don't go into foster care if we can provide some additional support to help them get through a hard time.
The situation that caused me to come to Providence House, I had cervical cancer, and it came back and I had to have surgery, and I really didn't have anybody around me that was able to take my kids for the amount of time that I needed to recover from it. So I was recommended Providence House by another parent that had her kids in Providence House, and they were able to take my kids for the amount of time that I needed to heal from that. So I was very grateful to be able to have them assist me with that. I had a very great experience with Providence House. My kids, it took them a minute because they were so young to kind of get in the groove of not being with me, but they also let me call them every day and every night, and then plus I got to visit them after I was okay enough. So that helps too, because it was a new experience for the both of us as far as me not being around them for a good amount of time. The help that they gave me throughout that period of time, it was just so, I was blessed to have them. Like, a lot of people are blessed to have them.
What brought me to Providence House was I was pregnant with my 3rd child. As a single parent, I didn't really have many friends or family or resources. So I was actually told about Providence House through the hospital. Providence House, they have always been there when I needed them to, no matter how big or small the situation, no matter what the emergency was. My experience overall with Providence House has been positive. If there is anything I can say to the staff at Providence House is, like, thank you. I couldn't imagine my life without Providence House. People from the outside looking in, they don't get it. Like, oh, you sent your kids to a shelter. And it's like they're family, they're not a shelter. If there is anything I can say to them, it's just thank you for always being a support. Thank you for always being there. Even the people, like the different mothers at group, they're all understanding. Everybody has been through something and everybody just kind of understands. So, thank you.
So when I think about the role Providence House plays in the community, it's really important that people understand we are the only place in this entire community that a family who is facing crisis, who fears that their children may be unsafe, can bring their children voluntarily, not fear that they're going to lose their children, and really be honest about what they need and know their children are going to be safe. We have so many families that say to us, you're like family to me. I trust you more than I trust my own family. And to have that resource and community for families who are literally terrified of not only the situation they're confronting, but the fact that their children could be taken from them if they don't find a safe place for the children to go. It's a treasure in this community, and to have been that for 40 years and 10,000 children, it's a legacy that's incredible.
On my time on council, I've spent a lot of time working on issues of children's health and well-being. So for example, we worked with a large community coalition to pass landmark legislation to fight back against childhood lead paint poisoning. We've made sure to retool our recreation centers to have trauma therapy within our rec centers. The list goes on and on. Providence House is one of those critical community partners that is working on the well-being of our children and families in our community. If we can't get that right, if we can't put the resources in behind organizations like Providence House that are partnering with the city and all sorts of other organizations to ensure that our babies and our families and our children are well and healthy and in a position to where that they can go on to a healthy, prosperous life, if we can't do that, then we're missing the ball on everything. What's really been great with Providence House is to see how they focus not only on babies and children and kids, but on families as a whole, to get them to a better place, but also doing it in a way that respects the sanctity of their families and of their well-being as well. So, the organization has been an incredible model and a leader on ensuring that they do everything they can to keep families together, but that they're also directly involved on the well-being of our children.
As we expand our services, we're doing more community-based events or just being a presence in the community to make sure people know about Providence House too. So our community groups started about 2 years ago. It's called SERP, which stands for the Community Education and Resiliency Program. So the idea with this program was to expand our services into the community to reach parents or guardians before they would be in crisis or need crisis services. So the ideas with groups is to go to places where parents or guardians already are. So places like Boys and Girls Club, a kinship support agency. And the idea is really to create a group where parents and guardians feel support from each other and can talk through maybe things that they're going through. And I can do case management also, so to offer that support to parents or guardians just to kind of meet them where they're at and to alleviate maybe a crisis that could happen later on by trying to get them resources before they're in that place.
My experience with the group is 100% positive. We share as much as we can with anybody that we come in contact. And I was just speaking with a family member the other day that said I was grateful that she told me about Fairhill Group, who then put me in contact with Providence House, and it's been nothing but 100% for us and the grandchildren.
It makes me feel comfortable because, grandparents come in all ages, shapes and sizes, and so no matter what we're going through, we always have a connection. We always have someone now that we can reach out to. So to have a social group of people that we can talk to, and not just older people, but younger people too, because Miss Emily is a younger woman, but she knows how to ask the right questions to make us think about things that are not just necessarily surrounded about grandchildren, but just our everyday lifestyle and activities.
My experience with the community group is very helpful, very resourceful. Emily is great. My son was like, "That's Emily, the one that gave me a bike last year." I was like, "Yeah, that's Emily." So he got a big boy bike from Emily. I don't know if Emily knew at that time, but my son wanted a bike and I couldn't really afford one. So when she gave him one, it was kind of like right on time. So he was so happy. And
think I would want the community to know that our families are brave. Our families are strong. When we report on what we do every year, it sounds like it's something that we're doing, but we're really just privileged to walk alongside families during their hard work. And I think I just want to point out how much happens on the parent side, how inspiring they are to me in my work every day, and to make sure we don't lose sight of how brave and strong they are.
The children and families that we see at Providence House, they're just in need of help. They want to be encouraged. They want someone to support them, and that's what we have the opportunity to do at Providence House, is to encourage them at the worst time, and the kids be there for them during the time that they're away from their parents, which is unthinkable.
I think one of the biggest successes for Providence House is the rate of how many families we're able to preserve and strengthen. And, you know, I think when I first got there, we had children that were going into foster care or families that weren't successful in resolving crisis. And as soon as we started stacking programs around the family and really wrapping support around them, we started to see the rates of family success and reuniting with their children increase. And, you know, over the last at least 10 years, we've never dipped below 97%. Last year was 99% of our children successfully reunited. And while our focus is family preservation, first and foremost, we're a child's advocate. So if that, you know, if reunification's 95% one year, 97% one year, we don't hold it against ourselves too hard, because we know that that was the best solution for that child to keep them safe. But fortunately, our families are so committed, they're so passionate, they want to be with their children, they want to be living healthy lives where they're thriving together as a family, and they work so hard to really get the work done they need to, knowing their children are safe with us. And it's just wonderful to see the commitment of our parents and their partnership with us, and to have parents say, you know, I feel more safe, I feel more stable, I feel like I can parent better than when I got here, is just the ultimate reward for us.
I just think the Providence House is amazing. They have been a real blessing to my family. As far as aftercare, the resources that they make sure that I have for my daughter and I, all of the staff are so great. They all make sure that they are in contact with me through text or phone call. So it's like everyone that I have been working with at the Providence House has been great. It's been such a blessing. They really have, to my home, to me, to my children. Like even my daughter, my oldest daughter, she has not stayed with them, but around Christmas they made sure she had a Christmas gift as well. They have been a true blessing.
The future vision for Providence House is changing every day. Natalie and her team continue to, you know, push outside the boundaries. People talk about working outside the box. There's no box here for Natalie. She's inventing it and creating it as they go along, and to see where this is going to go and become even more nationally and internationally known, it's just amazing. And knowing that these groups are coming to Providence House now, and Providence House is able to make an impact in so many other communities as well, is really heartwarming and special.
We're so proud and excited of the organization, from the board to the leadership team to the staff to the families who have been a part of Providence House. It's been really exciting to see the organization turn 40. So we're very proud of Providence House and the good work that they've done, serving the entire city on the west side and now with their east side footprint. But more than just the years has been the quality and impact, quite frankly, because you can be a 40-year-old organization and not be, you know, functioning to the highest ability. But Providence House has had the quantity of 40 years, but also the quality within those 40 years of having a fundamental impact in the city of Cleveland, on our babies, on our children, and on our families, which of course translates to an impact on the future of the city.
So my hope for the future of Providence House is that our services keep growing. So the fact that we are moving towards opening twice as many beds in our crisis nursery, but also expanding community services and the community groups to more places so they can happen more often and we can reach more families. Is really excited to look ahead to the future.
I think the fact that we have NATALIE LEEK in charge is God's biggest gift to us. She has done an incredible job, absolutely, and I thank God every single day for her. She was telling me about what's coming or what's in the, you know, what's being done now, and it's wonderful because she knows exactly what to do for children who need care, who are in crisis, and that's what we're all about.
I've got an amazing team of staff, an amazing board, and we continue to look for the next best thing we can do for children and families. As we talked about Providence House growth, you know, we've grown 4 times on our Westside campus in response to increasing demand. And we always had in our strategic plan the thought, how will we know when we need to grow again? And we had, you know, triggers in the plan, you know, waiting lists of children. And in the last 5 years, we have seen our waiting lists increase 265%. And so when we really look at where were the children that weren't served, it was on the east side of Cleveland. So we knew it was time to grow, clearly, and now we knew where we needed to go. We said, we need to come east. What do you have available? We looked at lots of properties, and the second we pulled up to our building on East 118th, I was in the car with another team member, and we looked up and we said, this is it, we found it. And so, you know, we've been fundraising for the campaign. The building is renovated where we'll have our administrative headquarters, our family resiliency center where social workers work with community members, the ground floor, which is a community and children's space, and we're crossing our fingers that we are just about at the threshold to build the children's residential wing. So our goal is to have the facility operating for children in the crisis nursery at the end of 2022 or very early 23, depending how funding will go. And so it will be 20 children at a time, a little over 300. So between the 2 campuses, we will be serving a little over 600 children a year. And so we can't wait. It's so needed, and the community is just waiting for us to open the doors so that children can be here and be safe.
I know what is happening now. The program that is lived out each day now. I think God is very pleased with Providence House. As long as His children are loved and cared for, I think Providence House has a beautiful, beautiful future.